evening. I want to thank you all for joining us for this month's speaker series. We are excited to welcome Vancouver USA Pride President Micheil MacCutcheon as we continue our series Pride Conversations with Clark County's LGBTQ+ community. Before we get started, I want to thank our season sponsors, the Historic Preservation Trust and Wager Audio. Our mission here at Clark County Historical Museum is to gather, save, and share the stories and memories of Clark County. The Society has been performing this mission for over 100 years, and here at the museum we've been showing and sharing Clark County's history for over 50. The core ways we share Clark County's stories is through programming, exhibits, and events like this one. Are you curious to hear what haunts the buildings and streets of downtown Vancouver? Interested in the strange and peculiar sides of our local history? Then you're in luck. We are excited to announce that our haunted walking tours are returning every Friday and Saturday in October. Looking for even more spooky stories? Then join our friends at Spirit Tales of the Vancouver Barracks for a look at the darker side of Officer Row to round out an evening of the weird and macabre. In October, we'll also be returning to the King and Stage as History on Tap brings back Brad, Jeff, and Pat for your perennial favorite, Campfire Tales. This year, they'll be diving into stories of vice and intrigue. More information on this and all our programs is available on our website, monthly newsletter, and social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay, enough for me. Let's get on with the show. Vancouver USA Pride started in 1993 to celebrate the lives and history of the LGBTQ+ community in Southwest Washington. From those early days, Saturday in the Park was born. The organization has grown through the years and today provides entertainment throughout the year, helps support Pride events throughout Southwest Washington, raises funds for charities, and offers supportive connections for the LGBTQ+ population in Southwest Washington. Micheil MacCutcheon has been part of Clark County's LGBTQ+ community for many years. In addition to his work with Vancouver USA Pride, Micheil spearheaded statewide marriage equality efforts from Clark County and developed legal family matter workshops that educate LGBTQ+ families on their legal and medical rights. We are honored to have a chance to sit down with Micheil and hear more about his journey. So thank you, Micheil, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. So I want to start with kind of at the beginning. So tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to Vancouver.
Well, that's the easiest part of the conversation. So I was working in Boston, Massachusetts for a company called Charles River Apparel. They wanted to expand and they had sales reps out here in the West Coast. My boss, the owner of the company, and I went to Dallas together. And for the 2 years before I came here, I was running all of their trade shows. Their trade shows weren't making any money. In fact, they were spending a lot of money and making nothing. Or barely enough to just say, okay, we covered the paper we just wrote. And I came up with a different concept, being the slightly crazy, different concept type person, where I would make phone calls, or while I was at the event, I would juggle. So the jackets and the pants and everything would all roll up into a small little ball, and so I would juggle. People would be wondering what I was doing, and I'd be talking about what I was doing, juggling, but at the same time it was actually a coat or it was pants, and you know, you can all put it together and what it meant and how easy it was to work with, and you can sew it, blah, blah, blah. So we went to Dallas together to the biggest trade show for promotional items, and we had a very small booth. And for me, I was ecstatic because we were across the street we were across the space from two Canadians, and I was alive with joy because we explained life to each other very easily. We were having a ball. But my boss was this very quiet, not so social type of person, and when people came to the booth, he typically made them feel awkward rather than welcome. So I used to have to send him for walks. And I would sit there and juggle, and then before you know it, I'd be like 10 deep in people, and I'd be throwing jackets over people's heads and saying, watch this, catch that, have fun, and making orders. And he'd come flying down the walkway, like, oh my God, you're covered, and start writing up the orders and everything while I was talking and having fun with people. And then never failed, within 5 minutes of being in the booth, it was empty. And the show's a week long, so we spent a week together in this booth and having to try to get him to go somewhere else. So on the flight home, he started telling me how we were letting go the person who was on the West Coast and it just wasn't working out. And he said, you have a different way of looking at things, and would you mind going out to the West Coast and creating a distribution center? So I said, no, well, that sounds like it would be kind of fun. But I basically got this company car and said, well, I'm going to be taking a week. I'm not going to just drive across the country as fast as I can. Probably 2 weeks, because I also wanted to stop in Phoenix to see my brother. And he says, well, where do you want to live? So I looked I looked at a map, and I did so I need to go down to San Francisco, I need to go up to Juneau, I need to go to Idaho. I said, look, 84, I-5, this is where I want to be. That's how I chose Vancouver. That's how I chose. I knew nothing at all about the area. I was a complete loon in early 90s and drove out here, got an apartment on 136th in Salmon Creek, which was actually the space over someone's garage. That became my work space, my life space. I got a phone with a fax machine so that I could use both. And that whole thing was just crazy. That's how I got here. When I started with the company, I said, I'm going to be here with this company for 5 years, because when this guy figures out that I'm gay, he's going to fire me. Cis white man. Yeah, life is real. And I was with the company exactly 5 years. I was with them 3 years on the East Coast and 2 years here before it came up. And I loved the way it came up. And they hired this sales manager who came out and said, we think you're gay. Just bluntly, over first time meeting him. And I was like, what has got that to do with me doing sales? I'm missing something here. And he's like, well, we think you're gay. And I'm like, again, what has that got to do with me doing sales?
Right.
I said, I'm really confused. What are you trying to get at? And he goes, well, we don't want that type of person. And I said, you might want to stop the conversation now. He goes, what do you mean? I goes, I'm not a 1099 person, I'm an employee. And the company is based in Massachusetts. You might want to read the laws. I know you're from New Jersey, but you might want to read the laws in Massachusetts. And right now you're at the point where I can do a great discrimination lawsuit. I said, so probably want to stop that. And he just freaked, and he called the boss, and the boss talked to his dad, who was the owner of the company. Dad called me. And he says, what's really going on? I said, I have no idea. I said, how many people do you know took a $20,000 territory and almost made it $1 million in a year and a half? And he is like, well, I goes, no, don't give me a well. What's really going on? And he goes, well, Barry's uncomfortable. I goes, well, I'm not dating Barry. And I'm not even on the same coast. What's the problem? He goes, well, we're not sure what you're doing when you're going out. I said, let's see, if I'm sending you orders, and I'm faxing you orders, and I'm calling in and giving you orders, and you're shipping things, and people you talk to are saying, wow, this is a guy who's personable and we can relate, and he explains things and he understands the product. And I said, if you've got those conversations and not a single client of mine ever called you and said, I'm upset. I said, so that's the real life. And so it wasn't long after that they just made my life hell. And I was just like, I don't need this. So I dropped them, I quit them and went to work for their competitor. I basically started working I just found jobs, odd jobs around, started looking at other places. I actually lived in Portland for 3 months. My dad got sick. So I flew back to the East Coast for a couple of years to take care of picking him up and doing the whole, dad's old, he needs somebody to pick him up. And then I was just like, I really hate the East Coast. It's true. After being here, it's like, it's a calmer, more relaxed. When you have a meeting, it's not a 3-piece suit and stuffiness. It is more often than not khakis and a t-shirt, and you're having a conversation, and you have conversations, not meeting. So that was a huge change, and I really liked it. So I came back here, and literally just, I had a job, I interviewed over the phone, had a job. When I got here, the job was no longer, I basically drove out here, and the job no longer existed. And I'm like, I'm not sure it existed to begin with. But the headhunter that I've been working with said, let me get you in touch with somebody else, because these people might work, which was a construction company in Ridgefield. And that was an interesting experience, because I went and I had an interview with the owner, and I had an interview with the headhunter, and I realized that the headhunter didn't know as much as I did. Which was a real surprise. I was like, And then, as part of the headhunter's job, he was to train me for the first 2 weeks. And so the first day, I had to, you do paperwork. And the second day, I just looked at him and I goes, let me do what I know I can do. They want leads. They want people to be working with them. They're looking for something that they just don't have to bid, but they want to start creating relationships. Let me start doing that. So I got their first, within a few months, I got their first new client that wasn't anything they had to bid, and the client had them build 60 brand new locations.
Wow.
So my boss at the construction looked at me and went, but John, you don't know anything about construction. I goes, it's not about construction, it's about relationships. It's about conversations. And if I don't know the answer, it's about the honesty of saying, I don't know the answer. Let me talk to a couple of people here, and I will get back to you. I said, that's how you build. You don't build by saying, I know everything, because nobody knows everything. And I was there for quite a long time before getting laid off as a result. I've just been here. I've never left. I said, I'm not leaving this area. No matter what they do to me, I'm staying. And I was involved with the Gay Men's Chorus. I was involved with marriage equality fight. I was involved with the domestic partnerships. When that started here in Washington, it was so confusing to people. So we literally did a legal family matters workshop. We were explaining to people what a domestic partnership was, what a marriage was, what's the difference. We don't have marriage, maybe someday we will, but while you are here, you can have a domestic partner. This is what it's going to cover. This is what it's going to benefit you. Now, if you are in this situation, this situation, this situation, you don't want it. You want to stay where you are. You can think about doing a trust. So we covered a lot of legal, financial, just filial relationships. What does it mean? What does it not mean? How can I do this the right way? The first workshop we did, there were 13 couples. The second one was 50.
Wow.
The third one was 150 couples. That's when we knew we were on the right track. Funny part was, it wasn't just gay couples. It was people who were coming in going, all right, I'm not sure if it's a better situation because I'm over 62. Can you answer? So we had lawyers, we had notary publics, we had all the paperwork, so if you wanted to fill out a domestic partnership, you could immediately that night. It was extremely well received. We did 5 of them. One was done in Eugene, The other three of them were done here in Clark County, and one was done in Collins County. So I've always been a bit of a creator, and that's why I'm still here. That led me to Pride. That did. It led me to Pride here in Vancouver, which I was like, it's a small, it's kind of odd, it's kind of different. Mm-hmm. I went, wow, that's kind of cool. That it's not what you normally, it's not this big party, it's not craziness, it's only one day, and everybody comes together, and it's everybody, not this group, not that group, not maybe a few here, a few, it's everybody comes together for a single day, and it's just getting to know each other, what's going on in the community, how can we help you, and that's what really got me involved in Pride. I really wanted to see something grow out of that. Mm-hmm. There's organizations, I mean, if you've been to Pride in like major cities, Seattle, San Francisco, LA, Portland, these are huge events. Mm-hmm. And they're multi-days, and there's lots of different things going on. What really pulled me into Vancouver was they bring the organizations, they bring all the assistance programs, medical programming, remodeling, businesses, and the community, all together in one place where somebody's having difficulties, somebody's homeless, somebody is thinking about suicide, the churches are there, the counselors are there, the doctors are there. I mean, to have a doctor at an event like that was very interesting. We had to actually have a doctor. We needed the doctor for 1 year. We have therapists, and we had somebody who said, I'm going to commit suicide. And we actually had a therapist where, would you mind talking to this person? And this is what's going on, and this is why we're having problems. And so that small concept in the back of my head started coming forward more and more. I don't have a problem with saying, oh, by the way, I'm talking about gay pride. I know gay part might be bothering you, but it's, they're people. We're all people. I think you can handle that part too. The difficult for me, though, is I have a car that I've had the whole time, mm-hmm. So everyone knows where I am. No matter where I am in the city, everyone's like, well, I knew you were here because your car's outside. That's one thing. The other thing is I can't walk into City Hall without people going, is gay pride time? And it's just, I get a giggle, and I just go, no, it's not gay pride time. I'm here for something. Are you sure? Do you want to talk about pride? Sure, I'll talk about pride, because I talk to other organizations, I talk to businesses. I don't have a problem with walking in local businesses and saying, I'm here, I want to talk to you about gay pride. Do you know that it's coming up on this date? And we want to see if you're interested. So we used to have a beer garden, which was not a good situation for the event. So I started talking to the restaurants and saying, on this day, would you mind running a special, something creative? We'll promote it. We'll tell everybody from the stage, hey, across the street at this bar, you can get this drink, and it's here because of this. And it just, the culmination of all that work 2 years ago, because it has been 2 years, was a massive event. We went from having 700 people is kind of normal. Mm-hmm. 5,000 was a little on the crazy side for us, but it was amazing. We went from being ignored by the newspaper to being there interviewing people. We're being ignored by the media. The Portland media are all coming over here on Pride Day, and they're all running around going, this thing's massive. Yes, it is different. It is still a little bit of the country feel, and it's still a little bit of the small feel. And I think that's the amazing part of Pride here in Vancouver. It's not this simply just a celebration. It's a celebration, but it's also a support.
Right. Where
people don't typically always feel that. A lot of it is, you get a bar that's going to have a celebration, and you go to the bar, and it's like, okay. But there isn't just that one spot. I've been to Portland, and the booths are there, but it's not always, you're not always connecting, because there's a center stage that everything's going on, so everybody's moving down there. There's beer where you can have beer and you just walk around with your beer, so people aren't always connecting, and that's not what happens there. We had chiropractors, we have doctors, OBGYN. Well, people have babies, and it was like a major shift. 7 years ago, Peace Health, which was Southwest Washington Medical Center, was the first time they started talking to us about, well, we'd like to come to Pride. Legacy, 5 years ago, Legacy showed up. Peace Health showed up. The local OBGYN people started talking to us. It became, instead of just, I don't know anything about it, to, oh, I know about this event, I need to be there.
Yeah.
And that's something that's like, for me, the core of what I do and why I do what I do. The event is very different than what people expect. We get that all the time. And we sell, as an organization, we sell odd t-shirts, not just simply, okay, then we have the Vancouver USA Pride t-shirt that everyone can buy. But then we also sell my favorite t-shirts. The first one is, just because I'm gay doesn't mean you're good looking, which I wear every Pride because I'm tired of the conversation. Really, I'm not interested in you. We have the really subtle one because it's tone on tone. So we have a t-shirt that the print is almost the same color, and it says heterosexually impaired. So you have to be fairly close to actually read it, and then you kind of go, what does that mean? And we create very unusual t-shirts rather than just the mill, okay, let's promote the town, let's promote the city, let's promote the event. And it's very much about building those strong relationships. The last one we did 2 years ago, we had an entire section of the park that was just for the kids. The youth and the kids we had story hour for kids, and when they got a book, they could take a book home, something that was theirs. That was the biggest part of the event. And no matter where you went, there was something, people were ready to just give you little tokens, flags and frisbees, and we had bags that had, welcome aboard. All of that was there, and it was extremely exciting to see everybody participate, get involved. But to have an entire section of the park that was just for young people, and that the young people were running, because they were running their own games, they were running their own booths, they were the ones who were determining, how to have a conversation and who would you talk to, who would you not talk to. But it made it really wonderful because the youth and kids had a place they could go and meet somebody who was in their lane, in their framework, that they could just talk to and say, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with this? I live here. How can I get something? And that was the basis for the absolute amazing, wonderful, what I want to keep seeing Vancouver's Pride be, when we could finally do it again.
So you touched a bit on, there's Vancouver Pride as people know it, but there's actually the bigger organization for Vancouver, for the community. For people who aren't familiar with the group, can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Sure. So the organization has grown and been a part of many other organizations. The current board has only been involved, the current board and organization have only been around for 12 years. The old bar that used to be here was the event planner. Before that, the drag queens drag group was part of that. There was an organization that started it. So back in 1993, there was an issue around gay people shouldn't be able to be teachers, and gay people shouldn't be this or shouldn't be that. And so the no campaign started. Fortunately, it wasn't passed, and as a result, Vancouver decided to have a celebration that happened in July. And it was started by people who were gay, straight, bi, didn't matter. And then the next year, they started the whole, well, let's actually call it something. And so it was called Saturday in the Park. It wasn't in the park yet. It wasn't. It started down at the old Red Lion Inn at the Cape. Quay, Key, Q. People say that so many different ways. It was by far the hottest experience because I was an entertainer back then. It was awful. It was on concrete on a 90-degree day. Here you go, try singing. Try singing. And so that's where it started, down by the waterfront, which wasn't the waterfront back then. And the Red Lion was actually very involved. Most of the performers stayed there. A lot of people spent the weekend there because there was also the drag show at night. So that's how a lot of it started, and then it slowly moved up to Esther Short Park. And it's been at Esther, I want to say 20 years, maybe a little bit more than that. And once that started happening, Saturday in the Park actually became the park. We actually are in the park. But that's it was created, that name was created because one of the founders loved the group Chicago. And the song, Saturday in the Park. And the fact that it's odd people and it's really weird and people just roaming and wandering and somebody playing an instrument once in a while. And that's how the group started. And then in the early 2000s, it became the name and the organization, Saturday in the Park. Saturday in the Park became Saturday in the Park Pride, the organization, Saturday in the Park, the event, which made the IRS very confused. And so lots of things we were trying to make it less confusing for them. But in the meantime, we've also been growing and rethinking, what is our mission? What do we want to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And we understand very clearly the importance of support. And so there's some things we're missing and slowly being added to the organization. So we had the Gay Prides of Vancouver, which are our ambassadors. They go out, they perform, they meet people, they talk about the event, they raise money for the event. Some of the money goes into a scholarship fund, some of the money we donate to local organizations, and then the rest of it stays with the organization to pay for the big event. And that model has just been coalescing and growing and trying to figure out. And then when the bar let go, when the bar closed and things just really needed to change, the organization kind of came together. And that's a good 15 to 20 years of the name and coming around and realizing who we are and what we want. In 2012, we created this scholarship. In 2013, one of our biggest supporters, Bonnie Tinker, was killed in 2009. And we were trying to find a way to honor her over the years. I had been talking to Basic Rights Oregon about, how about we, find a way to honor this amazing woman who did so many things, created so many programs, and was so involved in the community. And it just never seemed to pan out. Once I got involved on the board again with Saturday in the Park Pride organization, I barked to the board. I said, you guys have a scholarship, and an unnamed scholarship has no meaning to anyone. Like, why do I give it? What's it for? So I said, how do you feel about honoring Bonnie and talking to the family and seeing if we could name the scholarship after her, and change what the scholarship is about, because basically it's not just you're going to be given, you have to be LGBTQ, but it's not simply that you have to be LGBTQ, it's also you have to identify how you're going to, in the future, help the community improve itself. And that's a big piece of when we read everything. That's a big piece of what someone has to identify. How are you going to make a difference? Because that's Bonnie. Bonnie was somebody who just was all about making a difference and looking forward and looking to a new arena. And she did bullying programs. She did support programs. She was one of the speakers in the Legal Family Matters program. There was always Bonnie you could rely on to say, okay, I'll be here, I'll show up, I'll do what you need me to do. And Bonnie was someone I worked with very closely, so it was really tough when she passed away. That was a big hurt. And the board, to my surprise, just was like, hell yeah, that's a great idea. Oh my God, why didn't we think of that? And it took all of one meeting to say, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And the family was all about, yeah, that's great. Just keep us in the loop, etc. So that has been Bonnie Tinker. What's that? 8 years now? Wow, 8 years that we've had the scholarship. And not every year is the scholarship given away because we don't get people who meet the criteria.
Right.
And we're pretty clear. You've got to also, how are you going to give back? That's a huge piece of what Bonnie did. That's a huge piece of what you need to identify. So we have that. So we have our ambassadors, the gay prides, and then we also do community awards, where our businesses, organizations, individuals, groups who are doing something special to help the community move forward. And the community for us is always, it's got to be LGBTQ related. Not just, oh, look, I created this wonderful new piece of artwork, and it has no meaning to the community, the LGBTQ community. So we've pushed that more and more. We don't always give away awards. We don't always identify. I think we don't necessarily do a great job of getting it out there, that it's available. The scholarship is for the 5 Southwest communities. So it's Kamania, Clark, Cowlitz, Wakayakum, Pacific. And as we've been going over the years, I've done a lot of work up in Cowlitz. There's actually a Longview Pride event. There's actually RAIN, which is a Cowlitz County. There is now Battleground Pride. There's now the center group that's Pride. Skamania has a little group of people who do something. There's something out in Pacific County that it's a group of people who get together. And so as we've connected with these people and as we've connected with each other, our reality is Vancouver USA Pride is kind of what we were working towards as the name of the organization. But over the last few years, we've realized that we're bigger than just Vancouver. That though our biggest event is here, it's not only what we've been doing.
Right.
We support 5 counties. We work and identify and call and share information with 5 counties. So we want to get that word out there more and more. So as we're looking at moving forward for the future, we're looking at changing our name to Southwest Washington Pride Alliance, because really it is an alliance of prides. It's a way that we can also help to generate income for places that are smaller, aren't necessarily have the income that they need. People who are just starting out.
Right.
I had that conversation this week with someone who's starting out. It's like, the funny part was like, well, if we give you the money so that you keep everything fiscally responsible, what can we do with that? I goes, I don't know, it's your money.
Right.
And I remember several times saying, it's your money. You get to decide what to do with it. We're just going to be the C3 that helps you utilize and gives a letter back to people saying, you know, you can take this off on your taxes. You can donate, and hopefully in the future we get people who are like, I'm going to donate you $5,000, but you got to get matching funds. And we're working towards that. We're working towards more and more of that. But it's funny when you get that conversation, you go, well, if we give you the money, you know, to remain fiscally responsible, how do I spend that money? I don't know. How do you spend that money? It's your money. And I remember saying enough times that two people were giggling during the meeting, and I was just, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, it's kind of, you're kind of really pushing it. And I said, yeah, because it is your money. And
Right.
it's not me deciding what you're going to do with it. Just same as what we run the organization. The Prides have a certain amount of money. How they spend that money is them.
Mm-hmm.
We just need the receipts. The event has a budget. Who gets what? That's up to that committee. You know, it's not about micromanaging everybody. It's about giving you the umbrella that says, okay, we're all going to keep working up here to kind of keep bringing things in and keep sending the message out. But at the same time, it's still, you know, you have a budget, do what you want to do, and we will keep supporting you. So we've got two basic bank accounts. One is scholarship and one is everything else. So it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We're definitely in the change. It's definitely been rough the last 2 years because we haven't been able to be out, but
Yeah.
that's a reality check for us, especially for the future, that if something like this ever happens again, that we have a better idea of how to deal with this, because
Right.
it also enlightened us, or opened our mind to just how important it is to do physical, that though we can't all be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
What we ended up doing last year was doing a car caravan around the county. And
Nice.
everybody had the signs, and everybody had the flags, and we went through every single town. I won't do that one again. We'll do it in pieces. It was a 5-hour car drive.
Oh my goodness.
And that's because we met at the mall. We went all back roads. Out, we took the 14 out to Washougal, and then from Washougal, it's back roads through Camas, and then up through Brush Prairie and Hawkinson, up into Battleground, and then through Battleground, up into the center, through the center, up into Woodland, and then turn that bucket around and come through the back roads down the other side.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, other than that, I've done that drive without having, because we made a lot of stops.
Right.
So I've done that drive now without making the stops, pieces of it, because some of the drive was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We were all through Clark County going, I didn't even know this existed. Wow, but, in Yakult with pride flags. I was waiting for someone to go, let's shoot those guys with the flags, but it was very, not everybody was good. We had several people who cars came up next to us and flipping the finger, and it's funny because it doesn't faze me. It doesn't faze me the way it phases other. They gave us the finger. Like, it just means you're number one in their book. That's like they're all saying, look, you're number one. And it's like, don't you feel good? You're number one. Not two, not three, you are one. I said, start rethinking what they're doing and just look at it a different way. And that's a big part of what I do, is the constant rethink. It's been nice leading the organization for a lot of years. I'm definitely looking to stepping down in the near future. And I do mean I am definitely looking forward to that, because it is hard being the front person, that person everyone knows in the organization. And I do mean everyone knows, because there's nowhere I can go anywhere, that even in some of the towns and cities where they don't know, oh, I know you.
Right.
And we've run into some difficult times. 2 years ago, the biggest issue was the library. A group came out of nowhere, calling themselves Library Strong. What they actually meant was Library Week. And it was over, we had they did a drag queen story hour at the library, which was amazing and beautiful and fun and dynamic, and the kids had a blast. They could dress any way they wanted, they could do anything they wanted within the scope of the story. It was beautiful. And the drag queen that was chosen had YouTube videos that, you know, were definitely a little more adult. This upset people, and it's like, not everything this person has to do is strictly for kids.
Right.
And they said, well, if we look for his name, you know, that could come up. I said, well, then that's something to definitely address and have that conversation. So we arranged through Pride to have another story hour. And we brought in a different drag queen who is absolutely amazing, and she also was the empress at the time for the local drag community. She was awesome. She was a major reader, she was a major actress, and she put on a show. What I did, I didn't get to see as much because I had to keep running in and out. My job was actually to be outside and help families get through the unpleasant people who were outside. And I just escorted people in. And I was just talking with Owen earlier, and he was like, "You do that so well." I said, "Well, it doesn't faze me.
Right.
I'm being called nasty name. You think you're the first person who's called me a nasty name. You're an evil person. You think you're the first person who's ever thought I was evil. This is, you know, I got white hair, some of it because of all of you people, and some of it because I've had life experience where I just kind of go, it's not worth me getting bent out of shape because you're angry over something you didn't understand.
Right.
And that's cool. Hopefully we get a common ground." And I did a lot of conversations with the people out there. And they were not happy, and I do mean they were not happy. And they had a lot of misrepresentation of what the community is about and what we're all about. And we came up, it was really wonderful because we came up with a brand new t-shirt that just says United, and it's every single color of every single Pride flag, but it just looks like someone threw crayons and it just cascades down. It's a beautiful shirt, but it just United, and it's every single color.
Yeah.
People, we've given the t-shirts out, we've shown up at library meetings, basically because the Library Strong people are there showing nasty pictures or unpleasant stories and things they didn't like, and it's like, not everything is meant to please you.
Right.
I know that's a hard concept, but not everything is meant to please you. If you don't like a drag queen, don't spend time with her. If you don't want to see a gay person, there's nothing you can really do about that because they're everywhere. The community is huge, and it's diverse, and it's lots of different colors and lots of different people, lots of different ages, lots of different generations. Just open your mind and know that somebody you probably know is part of that community, and think about the words you use. Because I'm really, really big on Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, their song, that children hear, teach your children. That was a huge, I guess because I came up through the 60s, that I'm a little bit more of an activist, maybe, than most people. But for me, it's you know, I saw so many deaths. I lived through the 80s. I buried so many people. I worked in the community, lost some friends, and to a horrible disease while the government did nothing, and just tried so hard to see people grow. And I think all of those things, because I lived through them, because I love saying to young people, what you're reading in history, I was living through this. So it's not something on a page to me. It's the real life I went through. I saw them die. I laid down in a hospital. I wore the t-shirt that says silence equals death. I wore the t-shirts that said act up. I was the person in the restaurant yelling, I'm queer! And all the things that we went through to try to bring together a sense of, what you say is affecting somebody who's just nearby. Think about those words. Those are hurtful, those are hateful sometimes. That was for me, the focus with Library Strong is just trying to get them, where do you get this feeling that this is a bad thing? What is it that's bothering you? Well, I'm from California, and we didn't do that in my community. Well, welcome to the area. Glad you made it up here. I hope you like the weather better, because I know a lot of Californians who go, it's not sunny enough for me. Well, that's true, because you're in the Pacific Northwest, and that's a rainy world, which is why we're green all the time. But, welcome to the area, but at the same time, you're in a different area. There's different cultures. And when you look at the area you're in, there's Native American people, 30,000 of them. There is Sudanese people who came here because they need to escape. There's so many that you have people from the Ukraine and former Russian countries here. And, they dress differently. They speak a different language. I spoke a different language as a kid. The reality is, welcome to the melting pot that USA is.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. Open your eyes, open your heart, open your mind, and look around you and find out that this is the most amazing experience you can have in life. And you can talk about it. You can actually talk about it and say, wow, I met this person, I met that person. Wow, this weird thing's going on. Is that I'm a huge supporter of the library, because it is wonderful to see a simple thing do something amazing. And I do mean it was amazing. I got to see a little bit of it, and every time I stopped in, the kids were smiling, happy, filled with life. Got to dress differently. A boy showed up who was wearing a dress. Who what? Doesn't mean when he goes home he's going to be wearing that dress, or it doesn't mean that that's going to make him a gay kid or a drag kid or a transgender kid or anything else kid. It's just going to make him a kid. Mm-hmm. Kids play with toys. Could be a truck, could be a doll, doesn't matter. They're just having a great time exploring their environment, which is what being a kid is, to learn what it is that you want to be doing in life. So I'm a real promoter of that. Well,
you've covered everything I was going to ask. So I really just want to take a minute to thank you again for joining us, but also for everything you do. I mean, the soon-to-be Southwest Washington Pride Alliance and the community that you've helped build is just amazing. And
not doing it alone.
Nope.
There's a large group of people
true.
who support it. There's so many people who have done things way before I got involved. There's so many people who are going to do things way after I'm dead, and I'm pretty sure that's going to happen someday. Because at my age, it's, hey, who knows what's going to happen next? But I come from a really odd place culturally, because I get the hardest thing for me is the thank you. Because to me, culturally, how I grew up, it's expected.
Right.
Giving back, making something better, taking the time to recognize, if I don't do this, who will, is a cultural specific for me from where I come from. That culture is like ingrained, and it's the hardest part in the world is the thank you. And I get people who say, thank you for doing so much, and it's like, I've done so little.
Right.
I've tried to do more, but I have been able to do as much as I would like. But everything I do, I want to make it as permanent as possible, as long-lasting as possible, in hopes that it's going to be around long after I'm somewhere else. And I didn't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
If I did it alone, it would never get done. I have some of the most amazing people involved in this. And we've had people come and go, and that's life. And I literally took on the mantle of the people who did this before me, with an idea of, okay, I want to try to make it, I want to make it grow, and I want to keep it going. But I also want to recognize the fact that it's not stagnant. It's kind of like an organism. It grows, it shrinks, it changes, it adapts to what it is that is needed. So just a FYI, it's like the hardest thing is the thank you, because for me, it's like, why are you thanking me for doing the thing I know I'm supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cultural shift I have to get used to.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Thank you.